Welcome back to my channel. In this lesson video, pag-uusapan natin kung paano gumawa ng maayos na critique paper. Okay, so yung critique paper, definitely ibang-iba yan sa essay, kaya meron talaga tong paghahanda. Kasi kapag critique paper ang gagawin, hindi talaga siya writing lang, nagsisimula siya sa reading. Okay, kasi pag hindi mo siya nabasa ng maayos, hindi mo siya naunawaan ng maayos, mangangapa ka kapag nag-evaluate ka na. Remember, ang purpose ng critique paper is to evaluate the material in order for the readers to immediately and thoroughly understand it. So kung malabo sa'yo, surely malabo yan sa reader mo. But definitely, kung malinaw sa'yo, ay malinaw yan sa readers mo. Okay, so sa critique paper, certainly, there is a preparation. That's what I'm telling you. And that is why you really have to read thoroughly in order for you to write better. Okay, so dito, paano maayos? Madali kasing mag-produce ng critique paper, pero ang tanong, quality ba yung critique paper na na-produce mo? So dito, pag-usapan natin yung mga tips at saka ano ba yung mga standards na pwede nating ipasok para yung critique paper natin ay hindi pa basta critique paper. Okay, ma'am, question po. Ano-ano po ba ang inilalagay sa isang critique paper? Okay, so sa critique paper, maganda may outline ka dyan para ma-determine mo yung sequence plus alam mo kung ano yung mga inilalagay. So, for example, in your outline, Roman numeral 1, ilagay natin doon yung introduction and background. Kailangan ini-introduce mo yung input material, tapos anong background nun. Roman numeral 2, ilalagay mo naman doon yung brief summary of the input material. Okay, kung short story yan, brief summary nung story na yon. Kung movie yan, kailangan din ng summary yan. So, nasa Roman numeral 2 yan. Sa Roman numeral 3, doon napapasok yung iyong critical evaluation. Okay, so anong meron natin? 1, introduction and background. 2, summary. 3, critical evaluation. So, merong basic 3 parts. Okay? Introduction and background, summary, and critical evaluation. That means in the critique paper, meron kang summary at meron kang evaluation. Ang tanong, ma'am, ilang porsyento po yung summary, ilang porsyento po yung evaluation? Ito sa experience ko, sa mga critique paper, for example, na naibigay ko, some of them, ang sinasubmit ng estudyante ay pure summary. So, naging 100% yung summary. Imbes na naging critique paper siya, naging summary lang siya. So, lagyan natin ng percentage. For example, 30% summary, 70% critical evaluation. Okay, so parang alcohol, 70% yung critical evaluation or yung critique or yung thorough examination of the input material. Kasi yun ang pinakang output na hinahanap sa papel. Yung summary, 30% lang. Okay, tandaan yung alcohol, 70%. 70% critical evaluation, 30% summary. Not 100% summary. Okay? So, ma'am, 30-70 or 70-30 lang po ba? Pwede rin kasing 80-20. 80% critic or critical evaluation, 20% summary. But then, of course, hindi talaga nawawala ang summary. Laging kasama yan. Kaya nga, na-mention ko kanina, maganda na talagang nabasa mo, na unawaan mo yung input material. Hindi pwedeng magre-review ka tapos kulang ka sa information. Okay? Kasi kailangan yung depth nung iyong evaluation doon sa input material na yon. Kung short story siya, or movie siya, or published research article siya. Another question, ma'am, bakit po may summary dapat? Of course, kasi expect mo na hindi pa siya nabasa or hindi pa siya na-encounter ng reader mo. In that manner, when you provide a summary, you are introducing the material to your reader. Remember, the goal of a critique paper or the purpose of a critique paper is to evaluate it in order to provide a better understanding to its reader. Okay, let's now talk about the critique paper per se. Of course, do not forget the basic parts. So we have the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. In writing the critique paper, do observe the following. So 1, Introduce the input material. Okay, mention the title, the author, when was it written. That's number 1. Number 2, give a background about that material. Anong era? Okay? Anong panahon siya inilabas? Sino yung mga characters dyan? At saka, ano ba yung importance? Bakit kaya inilabas yan sa panahong yan? Okay? Anong meron sa politics, sa economics? Anong meron sa mundo? Okay, in the body part, so tip number 3, of course, provide a brief summary. Okay, major points definitely. Huwag mo nang isama yung mga minor kasi imbes na malinaw, baka makagulo pa siya dun sa iyong brief summary. In order for you to provide a brief summary, certainly you have read several times the material. Okay? Hindi isang beses, hindi dalawang beses, maraming beses mo dapat siyang nabasa. Kasi parang kalsada yan, sa unang daan natin, ito yung napansin natin. So sa pangalawang daan uli natin, ay iba na namang view yung napansin natin. Kaya hindi maaari na kapag nagbasa ka ng input material for your critique paper, isa or dalawang beses mo lang siya babasahin. It should be more than 3 because while you read it or as you read it, the more details you discover. Number 4, so nasa body na tayo. Give a comprehensive assessment of the input material. So dito, parang may mga sinasagot ka ng invisible questions. Ano po yun, ma'am? You're talking about the content, you're talking about the characters, or the literary devices present in it, kung piece siya ng literature. Of course, iba rin kasi kapag research article yung critic mo, certainly walang mga characters dyan. Kaya magkaiba yung mga timpla, magkaiba yung mga elemento. For example, your input material is a literary piece. Let's say it's a short story. So of course, you have to talk about the different literary devices present there and the elements, of course. So sino yung mga characters, anong setting, okay, ano yung mga imagery, anong point of view, pag-usapan natin yon. So dapat nakapasok siya sa iyong critique paper. Kapag published research article, definitely ayon din sa standards niya. Kasi iba yung standards ng article ng research at iba yung standards ng literary piece. A while ago, I have mentioned it's like invisible questions. So what are these invisible questions that you're answering in your critique paper? 1, what is the purpose of that material, of that story, or of that research article? Is it to inform, to persuade, or to entertain? Okay, natukoy mo ngayon anong purpose. Second doon, try to talk about, did it achieve its purpose? Na-achieve ba niya yung purpose niya? So kung ang purpose niya ay to inform, na-achieve niya ba yon? Another invisible question that you have to point out in your critique paper is that, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the input material? Okay, so you should be able to point them out. Another, is it appropriate to its intended audience? Okay, ito yung material, ito yung intended audience niya. Tama ba yung content? Okay ba yung content? Okay ba yung language use? Okay, baka minsan kasi merong naka-include doon na mga hindi okay na salita for the age of the reader. Or nag-code switch ba? Nagkaroon ba ng mga borrowings, mga loan words na isinama na medyo nag-create ng semantic noise? Medyo nag-create ng hindi madaling pagkakaunawa or hindi madaling maintindihan yung pyesa. So that's what we call semantic noise. Is it objective or subjective in its approach? Kung sinabi mong objective, ano ang iyong pieces of evidence? Ano ang iyong mga reasons for that? Kung sinabi mong subjective, ano rin yung mga reasons for that? Bakit mo nasabing ganon? Okay? Also, mention what literary theory does the piece depict. Does it depict feminism? Does it depict postmodernism, formalism, reader response, and others? So you have to talk about the literary theory. If you say it utilizes, for example, or it depicts mimetic approach, then try to provide reasons, connections, why mimetic. Okay? Another question that could be the basis of your details in the body is, based on the set criteria or universal criteria, what rating will you give? First, let's talk about the criteria. For example, you will be considering the 7 literary standards as the criteria. 7 literary standards according to William J. Long. So what are these? We have artistry, intellectual value, suggestiveness, spiritual value, universality, permanence, and style. So, you can measure, pwede mong sukatin yung iyong input material base sa standards na to. But of course, literary standard siya, so pwede lang siya sa literary piece. Hindi siya pwede sa published research article. Another question, will you recommend the piece? So, banggitin mo, sa iyong critique paper, i-recommend mo ba yung piece for this reader, for this age, or for this kind of reader, category of reader? And why? Okay? So, makakatulong ba siya sa mental health? Is it a material for bibliotherapy? Bakit? Bakit mo siya i-recommend? Lagyan mo ng napakagandang sagot doon. Why are you going to recommend it to this particular type of readers or audience? Number 5, support what you write. Okay, so ganito yung sinabi mo sa iyong critique paper. Supportahan mo siya. How po, ma'am? So by lifting some lines or quotes from the input material. 2, try to connect your paper to other relevant materials. Other relevant materials na katulad din ng iyong input material. So when you do that, you are showing universality, you are showing comprehensiveness of your review. Remember, critique paper to, so critical evaluation. Maganda dyan kung maiko-connecta mo siya sa other similar types or relevant material. Okay, number 6, this is for the conclusion part. So tapos na tayo sa intro, tapos na rin tayo sa body. Sa conclusion, give your general assessment or your overall insight for that input material. Okay, make it brief and make it great. So brief and great because it's closing part already. So it has to deal with your general assessment and it has to be strong. Okay, so we are done with the parts. Now, do not forget, since this is writing, always consider the writing mechanics. Ma'am, ano po yun? Siyempre, of course, nandyan yung margin. Huwag mong kalimutan na hindi ka pwedeng maglagay ng mga abbreviations, yung mga contractions mo, yung gamit mo ng punctuation, capitalization, your grammar. So, importante yung mga writing mechanics na yan. Do consider them. Kasi minsan, kahit ang ganda-ganda ng content mo, kapag impaired yung grammar mo, mali-mali yung mga ginamit mong punctuation, yung capitalization mo, nadi-distract nila yung ganda ng content. Number 8, have a final review of the paper. Okay, of course, consider reviewing the content, your language used, of course, your grammar, and the mechanics. Tingnan mong mabuti kasi sa bandang huli may nakikita pa rin tayo na na-overlook natin a while ago while we were writing. That is why do not forget the stages of writing. We have pre-writing, writing, and post-writing. In the post-writing part, we really have to check and we have to edit so that whatever we're going to submit with our professor, instructor, or teacher, it's really the final paper and not the draft. Okay, there we have it. So, sana nakatulong to sa iyo. Of course, kapag gagawa ng output, huwag pa basta output. Make it the better or the best version of your original output. Thank you so much. Don't forget to click like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell for more lesson uploads, practical tips, and anything educational. Have fun learning!